But Kaylee had just moved into the 1122 King Road house in June of 22, and the fight started early July around the 4th. So it was a big enough dust up between them that Kaylee was not going to her own sister's wedding, which was in August, since Maddie was supposed to be there. That's pretty harsh. Now we know that Kaylee wasn't living there when the crimes occurred. So I'm guessing she moved back to her parents' home in Coeur d'Alene after her sister's wedding.
No, actually, the wedding was in 2021. So it had nothing to do with when Kaylee had moved out of the King Road house. So she moved in June of 2022, and then she moved out just 10 days prior to the murders. And actually, she hadn't even moved all of her stuff out yet. You could see that a lot of her furniture was still there.
Has always struck me as odd about this house and the women that were living there. I've wondered if it was some sort of safe house or a way to keep an eye on some confidential informants, or something just different about that place that really made me wonder if it was under some sort of surveillance, or is that why Hunter Johnson was always there? Was he the one kind of keeping tabs on him? I just don't know. Now, when you consider the most obvious sources of the big argument between Kaylee and Maddie, it would have to be, for a bad thing for it to cause such a major rift between these two. And I also wondered what Maddie had told Adam and if that had anything to do with this.
No, it wasn't a safe house, and there was nothing weird about how they all ended up living there. It had been girls from Pi Beta Phi sorority that had been living there for a couple of years, and Maddie had moved in there in 2021. So then, when the other girls had graduated, and Maddie was still there because she was just going to be a senior in the fall of 2022, then she invited Kaylee, who was her good friend or best friend, to move in, even though Kaylee was in a different sorority. And then Bethany, who was Maddie's little sister in the sorority, and Xana and Dylan, because they were all Pi Beta Phi members as well. So they all knew each other from either past, long-term friendships or being in the Pi Beta Phi sorority. As far as Hunter Johnson, he was there all the time because he was Ethan's best friend, and his girlfriend Emily was good friends with Xana, Maddie, Dylan, and Bethany because she was also a Pi Phi. So they all hung out together all the time. Now, as far as a major rift, these are college girls, okay? Young people get into fights, get into arguments over silly little things. So it doesn't mean it was anything serious. And it had nothing to do with what was told to Adam. And I'm going to play this clip again because it seems that all of you content creators seem to keep forgetting that Steve Gonsalves already addressed what the Adam conversation was about.
We went and investigated Adam. What did you tell Adam? We went through that whole thing. Adam is about her trying to get back with Jack.
Day
Because they're
one.
roommates.
Or maybe the stories are true with someone flushing some products, and one of the girls or both had to come up with a large chunk of money very quickly.
Okay, why do people keep bringing up the flushing of the drugs? That never happened. It was made up by this guy, Tommy Jude, and he admitted he made it up and he laughs about it. So please, for the love of all things good, stop repeating that nonsense that comes out of his mouth.
I mean, isn't that what Steve G meant when he said, I paid that debt? I've always wondered that.
No, that's not what Steve G meant, and I'll play that clip for you. He was talking about how he paid for that funeral, okay? He paid. I mean, his daughter came back in a box, as he said. He has a right to talk about her murder and a right to investigate it because, yes, he paid for that funeral. And I can't even imagine the loss of a daughter.
Leaked to me, I earned that. I paid for that funeral. I paid for that. It's my right. You ain't taking that from me.
Calm down.
If you don't want to say nothing, that's your bet. But don't say I'm leaking anything. I paid that bill. Sent my daughter to college to get an education. She came back in the box, and I can speak on that.
I heard Ashlyn Couch was friends with Dylan and Bethany, and in most people's opinions, that follow this case, I mean, that's not saying a whole lot. So maybe Kaylee wanted to get out from, the flow of narcotics, and Maddie didn't want her to leave, or she couldn't leave. I mean, who knows?
Not sure what you're inferring there about Dylan and Bethany and Ashlyn, but it's ridiculous. This murders had nothing to do with drugs. That's not why Kaylee went home 10 days before. So just it's just frustrating how you content creators continue to bash the victims and the survivors needlessly. Do better.